Welcome back to Survival Roots, where I share the kind of practical building wisdom that turns a house from a structure into a place that truly works for the people living inside it. Let me ask you this. Have you ever walked into one room in your home and felt that heavy, invisible wall of heat hit you right away? You already know the room, I mean. It might be the master bedroom at the far end of a long hallway, the home office sitting above the garage, or that nice living room addition that somehow never cools like the rest of the house. You set the central thermostat to a clean, comfortable 72 degrees. The hallway feels almost too cold, but that one room still climbs to a miserable 84 degrees. So you start trying everything. You close vents in other rooms. You drag in a noisy portable air conditioner. You point a standing fan toward the doorway and hope it will push some comfort in there. And still, nothing really changes. Then you call a professional. You pay the $150 to $300 diagnostic fee, and the technician checks the refrigerant, looks at the filter, tests the system, and tells you everything is operating normally. But you're still sweating in that same room. So the real question is this: why does almost nobody in the huge cooling industry explain the simple physics happening inside your walls and under your floors? Today, I want to change the way you look at your home. I'm going to show you a small, old-fashioned kind of solution hiding in plain sight at the hardware store for about $18. It does not require a contractor, a permit, or a truck full of tools. In fact, your own two hands are enough. By the end of this, you will understand what a desert beetle can teach us about survival, why your floor vents may be working against you, and how one simple piece of plastic can make the hottest room in your house feel dramatically cooler, sometimes by as much as 25 degrees. So let's take back control of your comfort and unlock what your home should have been doing all along. Section 1. The agony of the hot room and the illusion of the thermostat. Let's begin by looking at the real problem, not just the uncomfortable symptom. In all my years of talking about homes, building methods, airflow materials, and low-cost fixes, I've learned one thing clearly. When a room refuses to cool down, the problem is often not where most people think it is. It is usually not the thermostat, and it is not always the air conditioner itself. The real issue is often hidden inside the dark, winding ductwork running through your walls, floors, and ceilings. A forced air HVAC system is supposed to push cooled air from one central unit through a network of ducts, sending that air into every room of the house. That sounds simple enough, but here's the weakness built into many modern homes. The thermostat only reads the temperature in one spot, usually a hallway or central area of the house. Once that single location reaches 72 degrees, the system shuts off, even if the bedroom at the end of the hall is still sitting at 84 degrees. Now think about what happens at the floor vent itself. Cold air is heavier and denser than warm air, so by nature, it wants to sink and stay low. But most standard floor registers are designed to blow that cold air straight upward, so the air shoots up for a moment, fails to mix well with the warmer air above, then drops right back down beside the vent. In practical terms, that cold air may only spread a couple of feet before it loses its movement. You are not really cooling the full room. You are cooling a small column of air, about the size of a dinner plate, sitting directly above the metal register in your floor. Meanwhile, your body is in bed or sitting at a desk, surrounded by the hotter layer of the room. This is what building scientists call thermal stratification. In poorly cooled rooms, the temperature difference between the floor and the ceiling can be 8 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. The thermostat never feels that problem because it is sitting somewhere else, but your body feels it every night. So how do we break that invisible wall of trapped heat? Strangely enough, the answer begins in one of the driest places on Earth. Section 2. The million-year-old secret of the Namib desert beetle. Now, I want you to step away from modern construction for a moment and travel with me to the southwest coast of Africa. There you find the Namib Desert, one of the harshest and driest environments on the planet. Some areas receive less than half an inch of rainfall in an entire year. Yet a small creature known as the Stenocara beetle has survived there for millions of years without streams, wells, pipes, or any of the systems we depend on today. So how does it stay alive? Each morning, when thick coastal fog rolls in from the Atlantic Ocean, this beetle performs a simple but brilliant survival routine. It faces into the wind, lowers its head toward the sand, raises its body, and stays completely still. For a long time, people did not understand the importance of this behavior. But in 2001, scientists Andrew Parker and Chris Lawrence discovered something that changed how engineers looked at surfaces: moisture and the movement of fluids. They found that the beetle's shell is not smooth. It is covered with tiny water-attracting bumps, surrounded by waxy channels that repel water. Moisture from the fog gathers on those bumps, forms droplets, becomes heavy, and then rolls down the channels straight toward the beetle's mouth. With nothing more than surface shape and direction, this tiny creature can collect drinking water from the air itself, up to about 12% of its own body weight each day. That is the kind of old survival wisdom I love studying, because nature often solves problems long before humans put a name on them. Engineers at MIT later studied and copied this bump and channel design on synthetic materials. When they recreated that surface pattern, they improved fluid delivery efficiency by as much as 40% compared with flat surfaces. And here is the lesson for your home. This is not only about water. It is about how surface design, flow direction, and final destination all work together. If you point a moving fluid in the wrong direction, you waste its potential. If you guide it correctly, even a small amount can do far more work. Your standard floor vent is basically a flat surface sending air in the wrong direction. The beetle solved its problem in a barren desert by guiding flow with the right surface. You have an easier advantage, a simple solution waiting at the hardware store just a few minutes away. Section 3. The Coanda effect, reprogramming the physics of your home. So how do we take the beetle's lesson about surface shape and flow direction and apply it to a hot bedroom, office, or living room? We use a principle that builders, engineers, and old-school problem solvers have understood in different ways for years. In fluid dynamics, it is called the Coanda effect. The Coanda effect sounds technical, but the idea is simple. When a moving fluid, including air, passes close to a surface, it naturally tends to follow that surface instead of shooting freely into open space. In your home, that moving fluid is the cold air coming from your HVAC system. When the standard floor vent pushes cold air straight upward, it is working against the natural behavior of that air. Cold air is heavy. It does not want to stay high, so it rises for a moment, loses energy, and falls back near the vent. But when you redirect that same cold air horizontally across the floor, everything changes. Now the air has a surface to follow. It clings close to the floorboards and begins spreading outward across the room like a slow, invisible cooling blanket. Instead of stopping 2 feet from the vent, it travels farther, reaches toward the walls, and touches corners that used to stay warm and stale. Only after that cool layer has spread across the floor does it gradually rise, collecting heat from the room as it moves upward. That uneven stack of hot air above and cold air below begins to break apart. The room starts to feel more balanced from floor to ceiling, and your body is no longer trapped in the warmest layer, while the good air sits uselessly near the register. This is not some random trick passed around without reason. It is basic airflow science applied in a simple, practical way. And in construction, those are often the best fixes. Not the most expensive ones, but the ones that guide the material, the air, or the water in the direction it already wants to go. Section 4. The $18 hardware store miracle and the 4-minute installation. Now let's talk about the actual fix. And this is the part I like most because it is simple, affordable, and does not require tearing anything apart. The product is called a directional deflector register. It replaces your existing floor vent cover and redirects the airflow horizontally across the floor instead of sending it straight up. You can usually find one at Home Depot, Lowe's, or Amazon for around $8 to $22. Common brands include Deflecto, Accord, and Imperial. Before buying one, measure your duct opening carefully. The most common sizes are 4x10, 4x12, 6x10, and 6x12 inches. Do not guess. Write the size down and match it to the product label. The installation is about as simple as home improvement gets. First, remove the old register. Some lift straight out, while others have 2 basic screws. But before you drop the new one in, look down inside the duct. If you see a small lever or tab, that is the damper. In many homes, that damper has been sitting halfway closed for years, sometimes because someone bumped it without realizing it. That alone can starve a room of airflow. Push it fully open. Next, use a vacuum to clean out dust, hair, and loose debris around the duct opening. A dirty floor register can cut airflow by as much as 30%, and I have seen plenty of rooms lose comfort simply because air could not move freely through a clogged opening. Then set the new directional deflector register in place. Here is the important part. Aim the fins toward the center of the room, not toward the nearest wall. You want that cold air to travel as far as possible across the floor before it rises. That is it. 4 minutes. No contractor, no permit, no expensive diagnostic visit. You have restored better airflow and pointed it in a direction that actually serves the room. Many homeowners report thermometer drops of 4 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit after improving airflow this way. But the way the room feels can be even more dramatic, sometimes closer to a 25-degree difference, because your body is no longer sitting in that trapped upper layer of heat. Section 5, the $25 billion silence, why the pros keep you in the dark. Now, I know the question that comes up next. If a simple airflow correction can make such a big difference, why didn't the HVAC technician mention it when they came to your house? That is a fair question. Is the industry hiding some grand secret from homeowners? Not exactly. In my experience, the truth is usually less dramatic, but still important to understand. The American HVAC industry brings in more than $25 billion a year, and much of that business is built around equipment sales, service calls, labor-heavy repairs, and large system upgrades. When a technician drives to your home, the company is already spending money on fuel, insurance, vehicle maintenance, tools, scheduling, and the technician's time before they even step through your door. So if that technician spends half an hour teaching you about airflow direction, thermal layering, and the Coanda effect, then tells you to buy an $18 part from the hardware store, there is very little revenue in that advice. It may help you, but it does not fit neatly into the way most service businesses make money. That does not mean every professional is trying to mislead you. Many good HVAC people genuinely want to solve problems properly, but the solutions they are trained to recommend are usually bigger, more permanent, and more profitable. If a room is not cooling well, they may diagnose it as a zoning issue and recommend a $4,000 to $5,000 motorized damper system. In other cases, they may suggest a larger repair or even a full system replacement. It reminds me of bottled water. People often pay hundreds or even thousands of times more for bottled water than for the tap water already flowing inside their homes. Centralized systems can be very profitable because they keep people dependent on expensive solutions. The moment you understand that your hot room may not need a major upgrade, but only better airflow direction, you step out of that expensive cycle. One small $18 part can solve a comfort problem that someone else might turn into a several $1,000 project. Section 6, the synergy of science, booster fans, and the attic oven. But let's be honest. Sometimes direction is only part of the problem. What if the air is aimed correctly, but there simply is not enough of it reaching the room? This happens often in rooms located at the end of a long duct run, especially when the duct twists, bends, or travels through hot areas of the house. Every foot of ductwork and every sharp turn steals a little more air pressure. In fluid dynamics, the Darcy-Weisbach equation explains how friction and bends reduce flow. In everyday homeowner language, it means this. By the time cold air reaches the far bedroom, it may be tired, weak, and barely moving. For that situation, you do not always need a $5,000 zoning system. A simple register booster fan, usually around $15 to $30, can help. It is a small fan that sits over the floor register and plugs into a nearby outlet. Many models have a built-in thermostat, so when your central air conditioning turns on, the booster fan turns on too. It helps pull cold air through that last stretch of duct and pushes it into the room with more force. In some reported cases, this kind of inexpensive booster fan has taken a room that was 12 degrees warmer than the thermostat setting and brought it down to only about 2 degrees warmer. That is the kind of practical, affordable improvement I like. Not fancy, not complicated, but useful. Now we also need to talk about the oven above your head, the attic. On a hot summer day, an unventilated attic can climb to around 150 degrees Fahrenheit. When that happens, it behaves like a giant heat chamber sitting on top of your living space, radiating heat downward through the ceiling. Your air conditioner may be doing its job, but it is fighting against a scorching layer above the house. This is where another old, simple building principle comes in. Hot air needs a way out. Make sure the lower soffit vents are clear of dust, debris, insulation, or anything blocking airflow. Then make sure the upper venting, whether ridge vents or an unpowered roof turbine vent, can release that rising hot air. When the lower vents bring cooler air in and the upper vents let hot air escape, you create a natural convective chimney. This kind of $9 to $18 attic improvement can reduce attic temperatures by as much as 30 degrees. That lowers the heat load on your ceiling, reduces stress on your AC system, and can make the whole house feel noticeably cooler, sometimes by up to 15 degrees. In simple terms, you are no longer asking your air conditioner to cool a house with an oven sitting on top of it. You are finally giving the heat a proper path to leave. Section 7. The final optimization, furniture, fans, and flow. Now that we have corrected the direction of the air, strengthened the airflow where needed, and reduced the heat pressing down from the attic, there's one final layer to get right. These are the simple, low-cost habits and adjustments that many homeowners overlook, but in my experience, they can make the whole system work much better. First, walk into that problem room and look carefully around the floor registers. Is there a bed, dresser, sofa, storage box, or heavy bookshelf sitting within 6 inches of the vent? If so, that furniture is stealing the cold air before it ever has a chance to reach the room. You are paying to produce conditioned air, but the furniture is blocking it at the starting line. Move anything that crowds the register and give the airflow room to spread. Second, check the ceiling fan. In summer, when you look up at the fan from below, it should spin counterclockwise. That direction pushes air downward and creates a wind chill effect on your skin. It does not actually lower the room temperature, but it can make the space feel about 4 degrees cooler without changing the thermostat at all. That is a smart comfort gain with almost no cost. Third, we need to talk about the part of HVAC most people forget: return air. Your system has to breathe in a cycle. If cold air is pushed into a bedroom, but the door is tightly closed and there is no return vent, the room begins to pressurize. It works almost like a balloon, resisting more cold air from entering. A simple half-inch gap under the bedroom door, or a basic $20 transfer grill above the door frame, gives warm air a path to leave so cool air can keep coming in. And if that room has a large window facing the afternoon sun, radiant heat may be overpowering all your cooling work. A low-cost reflective window film, often around $15, can reduce solar heat gain by as much as 70%. That one change can make a sun-baked room much easier to control. When you stack these improvements together, the directional deflector register, the booster fan if needed, better attic ventilation, clear return air paths, open floor vents, proper fan direction, and window heat control, you build a cooling system that works with the house instead of fighting against it. And the best part is, you can do it for the cost of a nice dinner, not the cost of a major renovation. Your home should feel like a place of comfort, not a daily source of frustration. For years, you may have accepted that one hot room as just a flaw in the house, something you had to live with, or something that would cost thousands of dollars to fix. But real building wisdom does not always begin with expensive equipment. Sometimes it begins with understanding how air moves, how heat collects, and how a simple piece of material can guide flow in the right direction. Your air conditioner may have been producing enough cold air all along. The problem was that the air had no proper path, no surface to follow, and no smart direction to travel. That uncomfortable room may be only 4 minutes and about $18 away from becoming one of the most comfortable spaces in your home. So I challenge you to try it. Go into that hot room, check the register, open the damper, clean the duct opening, and install a deflector that sends the air across the floor instead of straight up. Then feel how the room changes when the cool air finally moves where your body actually needs it. If this changed the way you look at your floors, vents, walls, and the hidden systems inside your home, hit the like button, share it with someone who is always complaining about a hot room, and subscribe to Survival Roots. Turn on the bell so you do not miss the next deep dive into the practical knowledge, old wisdom, and affordable fixes that help you build a better life. Until next time, stay cool, stay curious, and keep building your roots. I'll see you in the next video.